Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. Yeah, I'm not wearing a whole lot of clothes right now, but don't worry, the show only gets better. We've got an awesome show coming your way. You're not gonna want to miss this. Okay, so I picked this up a few weekends ago, and I've been looking forward to playing with it about, I'd say 2 weekends ago, and went out specifically looking for vintage turntables. Just started driving in the countryside, and we found some kind of mom and pop, I wouldn't call it an antique store. It's kind of like I wouldn't call it a junk store either. It was something in between. It was really neat. It was pretty much like an antique store is what it really was like. And we just started wandering around in there and then found a couple of interesting vintage pieces, this being the most interesting to me. Not because I think it's going to be like the most high quality thing, but literally just the most interesting. This is a Fisher Price turntable. And usually when you think of Fisher Price turntables, you either think of that thing I have, the little handheld kids record player, or the toy one that's not a real record player. But this is an actual, I guess you could call it a component turntable system. It's got external speakers, which we'll look at all this stuff closely. It's got a nearly full-size platter. This is really interesting. And I think I paid like 18 bucks for it or something like that. And it even has the manual, which I think is really, really cool. So I thought we would just check it out. Now, I did plug it in at the store and just to see if it worked at all. And I did notice an issue, which we'll get into in a little bit.
Buy a Fisher Price stereo system from a toy store that's music to your ears. KB Toy Stores.
So this video may take a while to put together. I'm actually filming this probably a few weeks before you're seeing it because I may need to order a part and I want to give that time to get here versus doing a multi-part episode. Okay, so let's look at the manual. Fisher Price stereo system. Isn't this neat? And Fisher Price is known to do a couple of different kind of crossover toy / electronics products like the pocket rockers. Stay tuned for more on that in the near future. Pocket rockers are Fisher Price. Obviously, the little portable systems. And this is super, super cool. Look at the arm reaching into this. It's still designed for kids. Still a kid's product. But it's sort of a step up. You know what I mean? It's like, it's definitely not a toy. Look at this. How to properly handle records. And now that has a lot of hair on it. So assembly is not recommended to be done by a child, I guess. I don't even know if it has a needle on it, honestly, you guys. I don't even know if it has a needle, but their products are surprisingly robust. Let's see the date on here, 1983. And that's about, you know, from the little bit of research I did, that's about the age that I was guessing, 82, 83. But yeah, it's in that amazing early 80s tan color that was so popular. I love the speakers. They're so impractical because they're so much bigger than they need to be. it's you know what I mean? This could be such a smaller, look at the size of the actual speaker. You can clearly see it. This little piece of cloth under the grill, just painted sort of to match this Fisher Price logo. Even the logo looks cool to me. It's a metal sticker on there and just a hollow plastic. It's got the thing to wrap up the coil. Wrap up the speaker, which is an RCA jack. And there's RCA jacks on the back of the record player. We'll look at that in a minute. And unlike the other kids player I have, this actually uses regular flathead screws. So I'm going to use that to our advantage. We're going to take this thing apart. We're going to need to because of the part issue on the other unit. But even the speakers, we can look inside and see really what they are. There's not a whole lot of information available looking at the back. Okay. So, went out to the garage and got my flathead. I always have flatheads laying around, and I feel like I'm always trying to find a Phillips until today. And then I have only Phillips, and then I need a flathead. It's just Murphy's Law. If you've ever wondered why some devices have such a long throw on the screw holes, It's because the connection's being made to the faceplate, which is down here. So, all right, I think I've got all 6 removed. There's a Phillips on this piece, but I think it's just attached to the shell. I don't think it goes all the way through. So let's see what we can see, if anything. Hopefully this is interesting. Hopefully I don't break anything. I feel it catching on something. What is it catching on? Catching on the cord, because there's only a little bit inserted. This goes straight into the speaker from what I could see from the edge. So what we need to do, I think, is feed this down into the hole a little bit. Okay, rather than rip the speaker out of the wire out of the back of the speaker, there it is. It looks like a pretty robust quality speaker. Unfortunately, I can't get any better shot than that. Okay, enough of that. I'm just glad I had an actual easy to remove screw instead of those Torx. I need to get a torque wrench or a Torx screwdriver or whatever. So it does have a dust cover, which is sort of a smoked dust cover, textured on the side. It's kind of nice. It's got kind of a texture to grip it right there. Never seen that before. That cool Fisher Price logo right there. We lift it up and out of the way. And again, even though this is a plastic platter, at least it's full sized. There's no rubber whatsoever. We have that 45 adapter. It's like you just have to back it up like that to put it in position, and then rotate it to the right to stow it. This will be a rim drive system, an idler wheel system, and I have a feeling that our missing part or our broken part may be the idler wheel itself. We will see. The tone arm has no lift on it, so you're just supposed to grab this. Interesting tone arm. I mean, it's solid underneath, surprisingly. You would expect that to be like a shell. The counterbalance feels like there's metal underneath back here, so it's just sort of a fixed counterbalance. But look at this. There's actually a lift shelf. Surprised to see that in the little rest right there. Looking back here, you can see those hinges right there. Down here we've got the 2-speed selector switch. And down on the front panel here we've got 3 knobs. The first on the right here is a volume knob, plastic, a little bit of drag. I like the chrome touches on there. A balance knob, that's interesting. So you can balance the sound between those speakers. And a tone knob, remember those? Even has a headphone jack, a 1/4-inch headphone jack. Very, very 80s. Just look at this fit and finish. All plastic, but it's got good heft to it. It doesn't feel cheap. I mean, from what I've seen of Fisher Price products, they're pretty rugged. So what do we have going on around back here? Not a whole lot. Basically, you've got the 2 RCA jacks, which are for the speakers. Those are not line output. The amplifier's built into the record player, so make sure that you don't, connect this to a line level input on something. This is for the speakers themselves. Good news and bad news looking on the bottom. The good news is the design looks good. These are rubber feet, actual rubber feet. I'm surprised. You can tell they used to be white, like that color, and then, they've discolored from, over the years. There's no adjustments or anything on the bottom for speed, consistency, or accuracy, but because this probably uses an AC motor with that idler drive, that's not uncommon for these types. The bad news is that these screws are those Torx nuts or Torx screws. So I still don't have the tool for that. Like I said, because I am doing the show in advance and in pieces, I may go out and get that if we need it to get inside. We may not need that, but let me go ahead and power it up and show you what it's doing. So I've got it powered on right now. There's no lights or anything on this. It's just, I don't even know if there's a power switch, honestly. There's not, so it just works. You just move the tone arm over and the platter spins, but that's not happening. You hear this horrible squeal. So something's wrong under the hood. There's something going on. Something's not making contact. That should be spinning right off the bat there. Okay, so if you pull up hard enough on this, it just pops out, doesn't damage it, and then we are met with the little C-clip there. So back to my screwdriver, we're going to pop the clip off. Put your hand behind it so that when you leverage it off, it doesn't go flying across the room. They have a tendency to do that. All right, moment of truth. What are we in for? All right, the good news, oh, it's a belt drive. What? That's a surprise. That is a big, big surprise. These are always idler wheel, these types. But look at that. That is a belt drive turntable, and the belt is busted, and I don't think that's a belt. I think that's a rubber band. A yellow rubber band. Okay, well, we've got a different situation than I thought we would. The good news is I think I might be able to get this up and running today because I happen to have some belts laying around and we can repurpose one. Look how nasty this motor mount is, and the squeaking indicates a lack of oil or lubrication. So I'll put some oil on there. That will probably fix it. It's also complete with some mouse turds over in this vicinity here, so that's good. We'll clean that out and obviously put a belt on this. So it definitely needs a cleaning. Time to get out the Clorox wipes. So let me go ahead and clean it up and we'll put a new belt on. We may only need some contact cleaner. So I've got some WD-40 here. Contact cleaner WD-40, not regular WD-40. Let's go ahead and see if this does the trick before we start gooping it up with some oil. That did the trick. Sometimes that's all you need instead of oil. You just put a little contact cleaner on there, removes the oxidation, gunk, and you're ready to go. Okay, next, belts. Which belt to choose? I had some flat belts laying around of various lengths. So what we're going to do is find one that, I'm going to start with this. You want it to fit snugly around the sub platter by itself. It should not, I mean, you should be able to hold the platter upside down without without the belt falling off. And there's going to be a little bit of a stretch, but I think that that's a good fit. So what we're going to do is, there's no placement plug or tab. Sometimes there'll be a little tab where you can pull the belt and put it on the tab and then align it with this. And then as soon as you rotate, it pops off. So we're going to need to do this by eye. And it shouldn't be too hard, so I'll put it on there and then ease this into place. Hey, look at that. She works. Excellent. Okay, time to put that little clip back into position. And then in this case, I put it inside this little 45 adapter. Putting these back on is always harder than taking them off. There's a little groove in the side of the spindle there. So you kind of line it up like this. And then push with a screwdriver. You won't be able to do it with your bare fingers, but if you have a little something flat and rigid like this, that should do the trick. And it's back on. And now we can pop this guy back on too. Good as new. All right, problem solved. Didn't even need to buy a replacement part. And I'm just going to be able to post this video a lot sooner, which makes me very, very happy. So let's, now that it's working, let's go ahead and do what we normally do. Let's test out a couple. Oh, you know what? We didn't look at the cartridge. Let's see if it's got a cartridge and a stylus. That could slow us down, although I have replacements of those as well. Don't be afraid to use your finger too. I think that people have sort of made this a lot more dangerous in their own minds than it needs to be. Just gently feel. If you feel a stylus in place, then there's one. And there is one, so I'm thankful for that. I'm not sure what cartridge that is, because I was assuming it would be the plug-and-play type that's used on like classroom players, but it looks to be a different type. This has turned out more interesting than even I thought it would. All right, go ahead and put the strobe disc on now. This is a strobe warning. We're going to check the speed, accuracy, and consistency. So let's go ahead and spin it up. Okay, again, it is a 2-speed turntable, so we'll be looking right here for 33 RPM and right here for 45 RPM. Starting off with 33. Ooh, getting a hum through the speakers. Interesting, maybe we're not out of the woods yet. Okay, giving this a minute to come up to speed. Interesting. So, yeah, it's not very accurate. As far as I can tell, it looks like this thing is going to be considerably slow, which is not great. Those lines are marching to the right. Let's go ahead and flip it to 45 now. And at 45 RPM, the same thing. Okay, so the speed is off and we've got a nasty hum. I'm not out of the woods yet. Check this out. Listen to that. Boom. Okay, so we do have a little bit of a challenge. That was with the volume down too. I wonder, also, how does this lift shelf work? Like, is that just a spring-loaded lift shelf? Because there's no lift capabilities that I can see here. There's no, there's no auto return on something like this. There can't be. If it is, it's not working. Let's see if these knobs have any impact. Yeah, definitely need to. I wish this would. Okay, let's try to hit some deoxit in there. Work it back and forth. Okay, the stylus does work. I had the volume down, that's why it wasn't working. Okay, it's still going to be a little crackly, perhaps. That hum, though. Interesting. I wonder if that comes out of the headphone jack as well. Another thing this makes me think about is the fact that it probably has a DC motor, that it's belt driven. So we could potentially get in there, if we could get in from the bottom and correct that speed. Is it worth doing that? That's debatable. We probably won't do that for today's video, but I do want to do a couple of things. So obviously we're going to play some music on here, see what it sounds like, and then we're going to do an ambient sound test in the room and a direct feed sound test as well. The obvious thing is, let's take a moment to try to lubricate that motor spindle, and maybe it's something that it just needs lubrication. So I'm sitting here getting ready for something, I'm like, wait a minute, maybe we really do need lubrication. So now, before I was using this is a contact cleaner WD-40 brand, but I will be using just regular WD-40, which is more of a lubricant and cleaner, more of a lubricant than that one is. Ideally, you'd use like a white lithium grease or at least a multi-purpose oil. Now, when we moved to Florida, we kind of had to get rid of all of our chemicals. You couldn't really ship them. So I'm still slowly building back the chemical library. I don't have much. So this is pretty much it. So this should work for today's purposes. I'm going to go ahead and spin that back up, and I'm going to try to get some WD-40 down in there. Sucks it down in there pretty well. The loudness of that motor, see how it just sucks it right down in? That's perfect. We want to keep it off of the actual pulley because it'll slip. We'll lose traction, which isn't a great thing. Now we want to make sure that we keep any oil or grease off of the pulley itself. So I'm taking this alcohol dipped Q-tip and just giving it a once over to get any grease off of there. Make sure that's nice and dry. Otherwise the belt will slip, and we don't want that to happen. Completely unrelated to this, here's a Loretta Lynn Christmas record I got for free on Mercari. I was on Mercari the other day, and it's like, you have a $10 credit. And I was looking at possibly picking up some Loretta Lynn records. Saw this one for $7 with like $3 shipping. With my $10 credit, didn't pay a thing. It came today. It's the small things in life, right? Free records are always good. But for today's testing, we're not going to use that. We're going to use something more age appropriate. This record player, I haven't explicitly said it yet, but whereas the little portable was designed for little kids, this was designed for bigger kids. So maybe 8 to 12-year-olds, you know, right before they transition into getting, you know, a legitimate hi-fi stereo system. If they're interested, this was sort of the preteen, you know, prep turntable. And I think that that's pretty cool that that even exists. That's kind of a market that just kind of gets lumped into, you know, regular products these days. You don't really see stuff that's made just for that age group. But this is still rugged. It's still designed to take a beating and, you know, give decent, if not good performance, which is really good. So we're going with some Dr. Seuss, If I Ran the Zoo, and Dr. Seuss's Sleep Book. These are dramatizations featuring the music of Marty Gold and his orchestra. This is a 70s RCA issue. Picked this up some time back, and this is a great excuse to use it. And you can instantly tell it's 70s because of the 70s era RCA logo. Also, I think this is a Dynaflex disc because it's almost a flexi disc. So let's flip this to 33. I'm going to turn the volume down a bit. The balance, I'm going to set that even. The tone, I'm going to keep that at about 12 o'clock as well. I'm going to flip to the front-facing microphone now so you can give it a listen. How the heck do you lower the tone arm? Like, I push it down and it wants to come right back up. There has to be something I'm missing, something obvious. Like, how do you get that arm? Because I can push it down, but it just bounces right back up. That is so weird. There's no cueing lever. How do you do that? Is it supposed to not be that spongy or not supposed to push up that hard? All right, I'm gonna have to manually push it down because unless there's a switch, you know there's a manual. Why don't I look at the manual? How many people were screaming, "You got a manual, look at the manual." Okay, I consulted the manual, and this is really ingenious. So you place it over the top of the record. This is genius. This is actually really genius. And there's a little silver line so you can line up where the track is. But when you lower this, the tone arm goes down. That is actually genius.
It doesn't tick-tock. How it goes is tock-tick.
You know, I didn't even notice any pitch issues, but I'm not familiar with that record, so I'm not 100% sure if that was lower than it should be. All right, let's try some music. This is a kid's record. This is like Toby Tyler circus songs or something like that. Oops. I need to get this raised in the up position. It kind of snaps in like that. 45. And here we go.
If it is the season to be sorry.
Let's go ahead and check the tracking force, the downforce. And we have to close the lid, otherwise it won't fully lower. About 4.5 grams. Okay, now for a little direct feed sound test. Let's see what she can do. Interesting, you know, it sounds pretty dang good. There's still some oxidation on these knobs, especially the volume knob, that needs to be dealt with. I noticed that the audio was peaking on the recorder, even though I was able to control the volume down to well below, 0 dB, which is where digital audio peaks. So I'm not sure if those were little shorts or little issues caused by the oxidation on the knob. It's hard to really say, but if you looked past that, looked past the hum, the quality of the audio was actually warm and vibrant. It was true stereo. So, back in this day, and that's really what I wanted to do, was uncover enough of this to really learn what this was like back in the day. And for the older kid, this would have been a decent sound system. The speakers have a little oomph and warmth to them. Everything's pretty boxy and hollow, but in terms of the sound quality, it's pretty rich for what it is. Now, the hum may be an issue with capacitors that need replacing. If somebody really wanted to fully restore this, I think it could be done with a little bit of elbow grease and a little bit of money, not too much, just a new set of caps probably. I thought that, we were going to be facing an issue with an idler wheel, but that was like the one thing we didn't have to deal with. But it's been an interesting journey. This is exactly what I was hoping, that we could get it working enough to give it a listen, to check it out. As usual for the Fisher Price, the build quality was amazing. I never had this system, so I have no nostalgic feelings towards it other than the design aesthetic is very early 80s. My childhood was all about the other one, the portable unit. That being said, this probably is nostalgic for a lot of folks. And if that's you, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. If you've never had this, would you consider picking one of these up? What would be a possible use case for this today? Would it still be a good kids record player? Would this be a good alternative to a suitcase player? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. All right, my friends, and that is going to do it for today. Thank you so much for being there. I appreciate you more than you know. Don't forget about our merch, our custom adapter store, all of that cool stuff. Mostly just thank you for being there. We got a lot of fun coming your way, and I can't wait to share with you. But that's going to do it for now. So happy record hunting, and we'll see you next time.